Hello, I'm David Lee, and this is my wife, Paige Lea. And together, we own and operate a coaching practice called Daring Deeply, where we help men, women, and couples begin to heal their emotional wounds through a masculine and feminine energetic lens to release them into the relationship and marriage of their dreams. Welcome. Come on in. We're going to talk about this idea of sacrifice today, most specifically when it comes to wives, moms, women in general, and how sacrifice is actually something we identify as a false virtue. That far too often women have been taught and been told and follow a narrative that says that they're supposed to give to others rather than give to themselves, that they're supposed to be a sacrificial lamb in part, that they are defined as a woman, as a mom, as a wife, if they give unto others before they give to themselves.
Mm-hmm. I think this is an important conversation, mostly because many of the women that come into our programs and are seeking out specific support with their healing is they hit a brick wall. It's almost like there's a glitch happening in their brain and in their body where they have no idea how to prioritize themselves. They have no idea what it looks like to put themselves first. And because it goes against everything that they've ever learned, in that you get applauded for being selfless, where you are putting everyone else before you. And that ultimately is applauded and what is deemed as being a good mom. And so this is a really important topic to unpack.
Yeah. Nearly every woman that comes to us is in this sacrificial lamb mentality, where they do believe that giving to others before they give to themselves is the way to live, that it somehow gives them worthiness, which we're going to dive into a little bit later. I want to read a few things from our notes, babe, directly here from my phone, because I want to bring in the audience for them to fully understand what this sacrifice may mean for them. So this is what women are struggling with right now. They'll say things like, I don't have time to take care of myself. I don't know how to prioritize myself. Putting myself first is selfish. A good mom sacrifices for her kids. If I step away from the house, it's going to fall apart. I can do it all on my own. I don't need anyone's help. I don't know how to ask for help. Asking for help feels weak. I was raised to be strong. There's no one that can help me. If I want it done right, I have to do it myself. I'm just ambitious. I like getting stuff done.
So common. All of those are so common. And I have said all of those on that list at one point.
Yeah.
Until I had experienced so much stress in my life. It felt like my world was shutting down on me, honestly. Internally and externally, everything just seemed to be falling apart. And it was really my doing, because I was taking on so much and committing and overcommitting and overgiving and overextending that I was completely lost and disconnected from who I was as a person and as a woman. And so that is where a lot of women are currently residing and are trying to figure out how to get themselves out of that place.
Yeah. They find themselves really in a space of overgiving. And they're giving and giving and giving and not giving to themselves because they believe, and we're going to dive into this more, but because they feel like they need to give, their hope, and much of this is subconscious or unconscious, is that they hope if they give a lot to others, that somehow they will receive, that giving will be reciprocated. And so the reality is that a woman who is overgiving, who, as we define it, more in their wounded masculine energy, overgiving to others before they give to themselves. In fact, I often say this to the women that we coach, that we help. I'll say the greatest gift that a woman can give to her husband, give to her children, give to the world is a healing her. Is that when she puts herself first, because you can't pour from an empty cup. And that's really, really important. I mean, the airlines have gotten this correct forever. Who are you supposed to put the mask on first? Yourself. And then someone with whom you're taking care of. So this false virtue of sacrifice is really hurting women far more than it's helping them.
I'd love for you to break down those two words, false virtue. What do those mean to you? And what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So we have a laundry list of false virtues, one of which is sacrifice. Others are longevity. Others are loyalty. The sacrifices we're speaking to today is when we sacrifice ourselves, we're taking ourselves out of the equation. I want you to ever sacrifice for someone else. I don't want you to take your wants and desires out of the equation. I want you to always take yourself first. I want to take myself first. And this is so nuanced. It can be looked upon as, oh, that's selfish. You're putting yourself first in a way that seems egotistical. And in reality, it's not. In fact, when you begin to take yourself first, when you begin to heal and grow and transform, when you make yourself a priority, then you can become the very best version of you. And that does everyone much, much better.
Mm-hmm. I think women have a hard time knowing where to start. Or what does that look like? Mm-hmm. A lot of it will be under the premise of self-care and self-love. And while there's incredible intention with that, I think it can be kind of confusing too, because women are spending a lot of time taking care of themselves in ways that maybe don't necessarily stick or last or feel as meaningful as they want it to feel. Mm-hmm. So like you think of the typical bubble baths and manicures and massages and naps and things like that. And those are all important. They're important parts of this puzzle, but what really matters is coming home to the core of who you are. Yeah. The core of your femininity and that feminine energy and really showing up for yourself in brand new ways and identifying what it is that you want and what you need and using your voice and setting boundaries and speaking your truth and asking for what you need and delegating and asking for support. And the list goes on. Like those are the deepest forms of self-care. Yeah. And all of that is really hard to do if we're trapped under this guise of prioritizing oneself is selfish. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what doesn't count as self-care. I say this often to clients. I say laying down on the couch and scrolling on your phone, pretending to take a nap is not self-care. Mm-hmm. And rushing off to yoga classes or rushing around to run errands, like it's all rooted in energy of hustle and grind and a quick pace and rapid fire and go, 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 go. And all of that can be incredibly depleting and exhausting to your entire system and is keeping you in this fight or flight mode. And so what's really important is to peel back the layers a little bit as to, okay, what is actually self-care in my life right now? What is being disguised as self-care? What is it really? And how can I begin to incorporate some more meaningful forms of self-care that actually feel like they're sustainable and there's lasting effect, that you can feel it. It's actually changing your state of being and providing relief. Yeah.
Yeah. Stopping action is not necessarily self-care, right? To really embody a moment of pause. And this is why meditation and breath work and journaling are so popular, because it can certainly help the body prepare, can help women prepare to rest and relax and rejuvenate. The vast majority of feminine energy is about resting. It's about rejuvenation. It's about taking care of the body and reconnecting with the body. So many women who come to us are completely dissociated and disconnected from their body. They don't know what their body is to give them, what their body feels like, how to feel secure in their own body. And so they're completely cut off. Why are they cut off? Because they're more vastly in their wounded masculine energy, this go, 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 do, sacrificial, overgiving, overbearing energy.
Mm-hmm. And I actually want to point out that there is actually positive intent in all of those actions. Showing up to give and showing up to be generous and to provide and be super considerate of other individuals in your life and include them and make sure that they feel special. There's so much goodness in all of that, truly. And they're all parts of you that are hyper functioning in those ways to give more than you are actually giving to yourself. Mm-hmm. And so rather than orienting ourselves outwardly to everyone and everything around us, that's where we begin to change the direction of the attention and turn it inward. Mm-hmm. Because now we can turn that positive intent that you have for your, the positive intent for giving to everyone around you and begin to give that to yourself. And so a lot of women who come to us have no idea what that means. Mm-hmm. And the first step is letting that be okay. It's okay that we have no idea what that means and for you to be right where you are. And then it's important to begin to get curious, to ask some questions about what would it mean to show up differently? What would that look like? What do I really need? What am I feeling right now? What do I want out of this day? What do I need as far as support goes? Who can I call that might be able to help me with X, Y, and Z task? Or how can I begin to invite my husband and to let him know how much stress and anxiety I'm experiencing in my body? And that way you are gaining an ally rather than an adversary. And so that's a big part of this process when you want to restore healthy dynamics in any relationship, but most especially in marriage, is to open your mouth, use your voice, express for what you need. And if you don't know what you need, then that's on you. You have to do some exploration. And with that, curiosity and compassion will lead the way.
Yeah, beautifully said, babe. So where in the world does all this over-giving energy come from, right? It's not because that's just the way I am. I'm just an overachiever. I just overly function. No, that actually came, and its root cause is from unmet needs in childhood, what we often refer to as unprocessed trauma wounding from childhood. And how does that happen? It's when this little girl, who was designed and crafted to receive a giving nature when she was a little girl, to tell her how special she was, to tell her how beautiful she was, to tell her how unique she was. And that necessarily wasn't there. And so she didn't receive the adoration and the praise in which she was designed to receive. That's what's so vastly different from men and women. Whereas men are not in need, in their masculine energy, they're not in need of praise and adoration and attaboys and gifts. Women are vastly different. And then when there's a deficit in her little childhood where she didn't receive the gifts and the adoration and the attagirls, she will begin to search for ways in which she can feel that. And what she may experience in childhood is that performance will give her those feelings of being worthy. And so she will, and everything around her is subscribing to that narrative. Even the way schooling is in Western culture. She is supposed to perform to get good grades. If she gets good grades, she gets praise. If she gets praise, then she can begin to feel worthy. Well, what that turns into, if she's not receiving the praise simply by being her, by simply recognizing her uniqueness as a little girl, aside from performance, aside from making the grade, aside from winning in a contest or in an athletic endeavor, well, now she grows up into a woman then overperforming, overgiving to get that praise, to get those gifts, to receive that understanding that she is worthy. And that's why she becomes an overgiver. That's why she becomes someone who sacrifices for others before she gives to herself.
Yes, exactly. The danger in all of that is then the relationships she has with anyone she crosses paths with all become transactional. And her performance and productivity is super tangled and tied up with her self-identity.
Right.
And so she has no idea who she is, and she has no boundaries to protect who she is. And so it becomes very depleting, a depleting experience. And the danger in marriage when this happens is, as we've discussed, the masculine energy is the giving energy and the feminine energy is more of the receptive energy. And so if she's more in the masculine energy, giving, then where does that leave her husband?
Right.
Well, the law of polarity says there's always one masculine energy and one feminine energy. And so if she's moving more into that masculine energy, then where does that leave him? He's going to be in his feminine energy.
Yeah. And what we see is when he is not able to be in that giving energy, he finds himself in a place where he's not needed. And he will soon, and we're going to talk about this in subsequent episodes, he will begin to then enter into moments of distraction and dismissal of himself. He will no longer feel needed within the relationship. And he sometimes then will become emotionally unavailable and distracted. And his wife will find in some ways that he is absent from the relationship. And that causes even more strife between the two of them.
Yes, bingo.
So I want to read from our notes because I want to make sure to get this precise. And I'm going to invite the audience to say, hey, this feels like me. So she's in this giving energy, and it feels good for a while. She loves being helpful, productive, in control, in the know, successful, dubbed as supermom. But over time, she loses touch with her core feminine energy. She's stressed out, exhausted, running ragged. She's no longer playful, and now she's just angry and mean. She snaps at her kids and her husband. She has a short fuse, and she hates that she's so stressed out. She wants help from her husband, but he won't step up. And when he does, it's not good enough for her. She continues to run the house and the marriage all by herself, because if she doesn't, who will?
I can feel every word of that. And I know that I wrote that.
Yeah, you did.
And that is a life that I know very, very well. And every single day that I was living that and waking up to that and going to bed to that, it was just, I felt like I was beating my head against a wall. Like, what else can I possibly do? And my mindset was, I need to do more. I need to somehow do more. I'm not doing enough right now, because if I was doing enough, this would be working out. But I'm not doing enough. I need to try harder. I need to overextend more and show up with more oomph or generosity, etc., in order for this to work. And so the answer that I've come to learn over the past several years is it's really not about doing more. It's about doing less. It's about doing a lot less, actually. Yeah. And the more that women are drowning with the quantity of burdens on their plate, the less connected she is to her truest, most supernatural born gifts. Like everything that she was crafted and created to be and to give and serve as a beautiful lighthouse, an example for the rest of the world. All of that, she's experiencing severance from it. And so it becomes incredibly challenging for her to be everything that she was designed to be when she's, buried under a pile of stress and chaos.
Yeah, she's in this sunk loss fallacy where she believes if I keep going, if I keep giving and giving and giving, it's finally going to turn. And I'm going to then receive from someone else. And we see this over and over and over, the run and the ragged of women giving and giving and giving. And they think, well, if I just give one more week, one more month, one more year, then perhaps I will begin to feel more of who I am.
Things will change. He'll come around. The stress is going to disappear.
Right.
This is all going to get better.
Yeah. If I just go ahead. If I just wait a little bit longer, if I just give a little bit more, someone out there is going to get a clue. And they're going to realize how stressed out I am. But then if I ask for help, I also have this narrative running around inside my body that says, if you ask for help, you're weak. You're less than. You should be able to be super mom. And there is this added cultural and societal pressure that says a woman should be able to do it all. She should be able to perform just like her husband in all facets of life. Have a full-time job, take care of the house, take care of the children, and look beautiful and radiant all through it. Which is another false narrative that simply perpetuates the erosion of her femininity.
Yeah. The truth is she can do it all. She has proven for decades that she is a highly, highly capable woman and can juggle a million different things. But at what expense?
Right.
So she's now functioning at the expense of her well-being, her vitality, having this peace and this joy and this freedom that she wants and craves so much. That's what life is all about. And so she's not experiencing that. So she's almost at this crossroads of, okay, which one do I choose? Because I can't have both.
Yeah.
And so that is something that I reinforce with our women clients all the time is you don't have to prove to anyone else anymore that you are capable. You have proven that time and time again that you can do it all.
Yeah.
And you've done an incredible job multitasking and juggling a million different things. But now it's less about what you can do and more about this vision and this intuition. And you have gifts internally that your husband and men around you don't have. And so when you can offload some of those stressors and responsibilities and invite others in to support you and help and find ways to delegate, you're going to be connected to the most intuitive part of who you are. And it's with that, you can begin to show up almost as a project manager. You're essentially just leaning back and you're sharing the wisdom that's coming forward and things that you can see with your eyes, but also with your heart. And that is how you are inspiring and influencing the leadership of most especially your husband, your masculine partner, and others around you.
Yeah. The superpower of a woman is her illumination, is her light, is her intuition, is her voice, for her to be able to see far beyond what her masculine partner can see. And it's vital in our relationship. I rely on your intuition, on your brilliance, on your ideation, on your creativity, elements that I can possess in my integrated healing feminine energy, but you far outshine me in those areas because you are living more in your feminine energy. And I rely on that to bring me information, to bring illumination to things that I may not see, so that I can take that into my masculine energy and make the decisions and move us forward and forge a pathway in which is so powerful. So your feminine intuition and my masculine decision-making, that's what makes a polarized, healthy marriage really move forward.
Yeah. And a great example of that is how we prepared to be here live and on this particular recording today, our studio day. And it happens all the time elsewhere, is that I'll prepare notes based upon the flow of what feels correct and aligned. And this is where I think we should go. And I'd love to, hit these particular points and share about this and X, Y, and Z. And I hand that off. I hand that off to you. And then you begin to carve out the conversation and lead us forward. And it's truly beautiful. It's the best harmony that we have found in our business over the past 4 years. And it's a harmony that has worked time and time and time again. And there are times where we have strayed from that. And what happened?
Yeah, it didn't work.
It didn't work.
It didn't work. In fact, I can recall a masterclass that we recently held for some of our clients. And I came up with the content. I came up with the flow. I produced the slides. And then I led the conversation. I facilitated the movement of the class. But I remember getting off that masterclass thinking, there's something missing here. It didn't feel quite right. It felt hollow. It felt, in many ways, lifeless. And what we realized was, there is so much power and beauty when you come to the table with your intuition, with your flow, with your sequence, all feminine. When you come to the table with all of your ideas and creativity, and then I take all of that information, all that insight, and then I forge a path through the conversation. I lead us, I keep us on track. I ask questions and I provide answers. But that combination, that perfect recipe is what makes us, I believe, so incredibly satisfied in our marriage, satisfied in our overly satisfied, where the feminine and the masculine are truly working together, as opposed to if you were in your overdoing energy, if you were sacrificing yourself and wanting to do it all and following up with me and making sure that I had all things in sequence the exact way that it needed to be according to you, you again then are in your overgiving masculine energy, and I'm trying to lead and facilitate that particular masterclass, and we're simply going to have a clash.
Yeah. And so conflict happens when there's two masculine energies come together.
Yep.
And it's because there's this power struggle. They're fighting for who is actually going to be the leader. So where things have not worked for us in the past, personally and professionally, is when I'll have an idea, I'll pass it off to David, who then is trying to lead, and then my wounding will come forward and begin to correct all of the ways in which he is trying to execute this plan. And so that's where conflict begins to erupt, because that's the two masculine energies who are fighting to be right. And so that's where my work came in to ultimately ask, okay, what is it about his way that feels threatening, that feels wrong, that feels incorrect, and allowed myself to meet myself in brand new places and brand new self-awareness. And also learned a lot of my wounding revolved around things being perfect. Things have to be perfect and just right. And I was so anal about everything, every little detail of my life. And I just realized how much energy I was putting into all of those tiny little details that really didn't matter. It was adding a lot of stress to my body, and I may have not even really known it or wanted to become aware of it, be honest with myself about it.
Yeah. I want to highlight what you just said, Paige. All of that energy, all that perfectionist energy coming forward will literally erode a woman's body from the inside out. We've talked about this in other forums, that when a woman is experiencing chronic fatigue, chronic pain, anxiety, and stress, when her physical body begins to break down, it's all because more often than not, she's more in her masculine energy than she is in her free-flowing, feminine, radiant, creative energy, where she feels most at home. She's dysregulated, she's dissociated, she's disembodied from her body, and she's more in that masculine energy because she believes, again, to our point earlier, she believes that if she does give and give and give and give, that somehow, some way, that she'll be given to. Mm-hmm. And more often than not, all the women that we've talked to, the many women that we serve and support in our client base, and then the tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of women across the world, have all agreed to say, it's never given back the way that I think it's going to be when I give and give and give.
Mm-hmm. It's like I was seeking validation in the perfectionistic patterns.
Exactly.
Like I just wanted to be seen. I just wanted to be heard, which is at the root of much of this overactivity from women today. Mm-hmm. Is she really just wants to be seen. She really just wants to be loved without transaction, without there being something else that she has to give or provide. She really just wants to show up, be herself, and be loved for who she is.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's begin to land this plane, and let's provide the audience what needs to happen. What does she need to step into her healing masculine energy? What does she need to do? What does she need to embrace? What does she need to know in order for her to feel more in her softened, surrendering, radiant receptivity of the feminine energy? Yes.
So I want to back up to one of the last things I just said of, she's really just looking to be loved by her partner, like at the deepest possible level, and know that she can trust him and that he's reliable and he's going to be there for her 100%, no matter what, even in her darkest hours. Yeah. And the truth is, in order to be loved by someone else to the depth in which you desire, you have to be able to love yourself to that same depth. And so if I were to speak to one of these women, like directly right now, some of the things that she must prioritize is she must start asking herself some questions about, who am I without productivity? Who am I without perfection? Who am I without this laundry list of things to do every single day? Who am I without all of this responsibility? To help her understand who she is as a woman before all of these other layers of burdens and stressors begin to pile on top of her. Yeah. So that really is step one. And the list begins to expand into learning how to delegate and setting boundaries and understanding your energetic limits and honoring your body and really beginning to attune to yourself in deeply profound ways that are it's probably a brand new process for her to experience that. Yeah. And letting it be okay to start fresh and start brand new with something that she may not necessarily be good at, but just committing to herself every single day and showing up to learn more about herself. The more she knows about herself, the more action and choice and power she has over her choice in her everyday life.
Yeah. I would lead her also to communicate with her husband and let him know that she wants to be more in her feminine energy, to actually communicate that. And she may not know what that means. She may not know what that looks like. She may not know how to even begin, but that can help bring him into the fold, into the conversation. Whereas oftentimes, and we see this every single day with our clients, they'll begin to change and shift without communicating to their partner. And then suddenly there's this jolting experience that seems very confusing to the other spouse. So to communicate to her husband and say, this is what I want, this is what I desire, and I'm not sure necessarily how to get there, but this is how you can help me. and to allow him to know that he can step forward and that it may be rocky, it may be weird, it may be off, it may feel odd and lead to conflict. But if he knows that now she wants to step back, she wants to be surrendering, she wants to soften and be more in her radiant feminine energy, where she feels more like the woman that she was crafted to become. I can promise you, even as I'm saying this out loud, I'm hearing it come out of my mouth, and that incites inside of me, my masculine energy, to step forward. When I hear you say, I want to be more in my feminine, I want to surrender, I want to do less, that forges inside of me an excitement and invigoration for me to step forward and see how I can support her in that feminine energy.
Tell me why. Why? What is it? Yeah. What do you hear and what does it mean to you?
I feel challenged. I feel absolutely challenged. And the masculine energy, when it's in its integrated, healthy state, wants to be challenged, needs to be challenged, wants to know that there's something that he can do in order to provide her support so that she can be all that she wants to be. That's really the pulp of the healthy, polarized marriage, is that he is being challenged by what she desires through her feminine energy. When she steps back, he can step forward. When he steps forward, she can step back. This is the true reciprocity that should be happening in marriage relationships.
Mm-hmm. That is harmony.
That is harmony. All right. So I want to speak right now to the women who absolutely know that they're stressed out, overwhelmed, and burned out. What do they do? What do they do? And the first thing that I will direct them toward, is simply tell someone, communicate, most especially to their husband, who can then certainly provide an ear to what she's going through. Now, what's really, really important is that this conversation take place in a peaceful setting, not in the midst of conflict, not in the midst of confrontation. Is it over a nice dinner that she brings up this conversation with her husband simply by saying, babe, I've been feeling so incredibly stressed out and overwhelmed and burned out, and I need your help.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And there could be some women listening that are like, I wish it was that easy or that simple, because perhaps the relationship, the marriage that they're in right now, is a little strained. It could be a bit fragile, and the communication isn't necessarily as open as that is, as we indicated. So what you said at the end is a fantastic place to begin. I feel stressed.
Yeah.
I feel stressed. Just simply being honest with yourself, being honest with your partner in this marriage, and beginning to just simply communicate it from that lens, from you, the person who is experiencing stress, versus you never help me with anything that's on this long list. That is not going to communicate what you're feeling to him. And instead, that could just send him into a state of deflection and defensiveness. And therefore, it will keep you in the adversarial state.
I can promise over and over and over again, in working with men and women for years, and from a masculine perspective, that when you come to me with an I feel statement, when you say, I feel this, it automatically takes the finger off of me and simply points it back to you and says, this is what I'm feeling right now. I need help. And what I mentioned earlier is that inside of a masculine man, when he hears an I feel statement from a woman, it says something inside of him that says, I wonder what I can do to help her. So those I feel statements are critical, and that's the magical way in which to begin to communicate to her husband about her stress, her overwhelm, and her burnout.
Women might not know how she feels too. And so that's a big part of this thawing out process, is allowing her to build more sensation, a sensory experience in her body, her feeling body, so that she's coming back online with her feminine body. So there's a lot of nuance with all of this, but essentially it comes back to getting connected with the feeling body so that you can begin to articulate what it is that you are feeling and experiencing in your body.
I think so much of this is trial and error. Ladies, we're talking to you now. Give it a try. Try it on. Simply begin how you feel, the things that you want and desire, by leveraging I feel, and practice that. Get inside of a journal, get inside your notes on your phone, and just start scribbling out, I feel this, I feel that, I feel sad, I feel depressed, I feel anxious, and just practice writing those out, and then practice saying those and how that feels within your body, and it will become more of a habit when you can bring that to your husband. Thank you for joining us on the Daring Deeply podcast. If you're interested, if this has been valuable, you can work with us through a one-on-one coaching environment. Reach out to us through our social media channels, and we look forward to having a conversation with you. Take care, and thank you for watching.